What would you do if the daughter-in-law living under your roof wasn't who she claimed to be? If every smile, every gesture, every word carried the weight of a secret so dangerous it could destroy your family? This is the story of how one widow uncovered a truth so shocking it turned love into betrayal and strangers into family. On a quiet afternoon in Crestwood, Helena Rossi sat by the window of her modest suburban home. The world outside was calm, children playing on bicycles, the mailman strolling down the lane, and the faint sound of birdsong. To Helena, these small, everyday details had become a source of comfort. She was a widow now, living alone except for the moments her family came to visit. Her eldest son, Antonio, lived nearby with his wife Sophia and their little boy Luca. They were her pride and joy, the reason her heart still felt full despite the absence of her late husband. Helena was sipping her tea when the phone rang. She recognized the caller ID immediately. It was her younger son, Marco. A smile spread across her face. Marco was the lively one, a co-pilot for an airline, always calling in from different airports, bringing with him stories from places she had only read about. "Marco!" Helena answered warmly, her voice carrying both relief and joy. "Hey, Mom," Marco said. His tone was cheerful at first, but there was something in the background, a faint unease she couldn't quite place. "How's the flight schedule?" "Where are you now?" she asked. "I'm at the airport," he replied, lowering his voice. "Got a layover before I head to Italy. But listen, Mom, something strange just happened." Helena frowned. "Strange? What do you mean?" Marco hesitated, then whispered, "Mom, Sophia is here. She just boarded my flight. I saw her with my own eyes. I even have her passport in my hands. She's on her way to Italy." Helena blinked, confused. For a moment she thought she had misheard him. "That's impossible, Marco. Sophia is here at the house. She's upstairs right now, taking a shower. I just spoke to her a few minutes ago." There was silence on the other end, followed by Marco's voice, sharper now. "No, Mom. I'm telling you the truth. She's here at the airport. I wouldn't mistake her. I'm holding her passport. She's going to Italy." Helena's stomach tightened. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed on the staircase behind her. Then she heard a familiar voice call out, Sophia's voice. "Helena, do you want me to start dinner soon?" Helena froze. The phone nearly slipped from her trembling hands. She turned her head toward the stairs. There, in a white bathrobe, stood Sophia, calm, smiling, her dark hair damp from the shower. Her mind spun. How could Sophia be here in her home and at the airport at the same time? "Mom!" Marco's voice cut through the silence. "Did you hear me? She's not supposed to be home. She's right in front of me at the gate." Helena's throat went dry. She forced herself to whisper, "Marco, hang up for now. I'll call you back." She ended the call and stared at Sophia, who was now walking casually toward the kitchen, humming to herself. Everything about her seemed normal. Too normal. But Helena's heart told her otherwise. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. That night, as she lay awake, Helena replayed the phone call in her mind again and again. The impossible contradiction gnawed at her thoughts. Could Marco have been mistaken? No, Marco was sharp, careful. And he had held Sophia's passport. Then, who was the woman upstairs with her? Her mind whispered an answer she didn't want to hear. What if the woman in her house wasn't Sophia at all? And just like that, a seed of doubt was planted in Helena's heart. A seed that would grow, twisting her world into shadows and questions she never dreamed she would have to face. For in that single phone call, Helena's reality cracked, and nothing in Crestwood would ever be the same again. The morning after Marco's call, Helena tried to convince herself it had all been a misunderstanding. Maybe Marco was exhausted from long hours in the cockpit. Maybe he saw someone who only looked like Sophia. After all, airports were crowded, full of hurried faces. Mistakes could happen, but no matter how hard she tried to dismiss it, the memory of that moment refused to fade. The certainty in Marco's voice, the passport in his hands, the woman in her kitchen humming as if nothing had happened. It was like trying to fit two puzzle pieces together that clearly did not belong. Helena carried that unease with her through the day. She watched Sophia more closely now, though she tried not to make it obvious. At breakfast, Sophia laughed brightly as Luca spilled milk on the table, cleaning it up with the patience of a doting mother. Everything about her seemed perfect, effortless. Yet later that same week, Helena noticed something odd. It was a small thing, but it unsettled her deeply. Sophia sat at the dining table, filling out some school forms for Luca. She picked up the pen with her left hand and began writing quickly. Helena froze. For as long as she had known her, Sophia had always been right-handed. Helena remembered her writing thank-you notes after the wedding, signing documents, jotting down grocery lists, always with her right hand. But here she was, writing smoothly with her left, as if it had always been natural. "Since when do you write left-handed?" Helena asked casually, forcing a light tone. Sophia looked up, startled, then chuckled. "Oh, I've always been able to use both. I just switch sometimes. Helps when one hand gets tired." Helena forced a smile, but inside her chest, something clenched. In all these years, Sophia had never once mentioned such a thing. It didn't stop there. A few days later, Helena saw another inconsistency. Sophia came downstairs dressed for an evening out with Antonio. She wore a sleek black dress, her hair styled in soft curls. But what struck Helena was the fashion choice itself. Sophia had always leaned toward bright colors, reds, blues, floral patterns. Black, especially a dress this bold, was not her style at all. "You look different," Helena remarked, trying to mask the suspicion in her voice. Sophia smiled faintly, almost coldly. "People change, Helena. Maybe I just got tired of looking the same every day." The words were simple, but the tone detached, almost defensive, stung Helena's ears. From that day on, she began to keep a notebook hidden in her bedside drawer. Each time she noticed something odd, she wrote it down. Left-handed writing, never before. Black dress, unusual choice. Voice sharper, colder at times. Forget small details about Luca's school schedule. The list grew. What frightened Helena most wasn't just the inconsistencies, it was the unpredictability. Some days, Sophia was her usual warm, affectionate self, showering Luca with kisses, helping Helena with chores, laughing easily with Antonio. On other days, she seemed distant, irritated, even clumsy, as though she wasn't entirely comfortable in her own skin. Neighbors began to notice, too. Mrs. Green, who lived across the street, stopped Helena one morning. "Is everything all right with Sophia?" she asked, lowering her voice. "I saw her at the store yesterday. She looked distracted, almost like she didn't recognize me at first. Very unlike her." Helena's heart sank. It wasn't just her imagination. Others were seeing it, too. The more she watched, the more the contradictions piled up. One evening, she found Sophia struggling to open a jar in the kitchen, fumbling clumsily until Antonio stepped in. But Helena remembered vividly how, just a week earlier, Sophia had opened a similar jar with ease, laughing at Antonio for being unable to manage it. It was as if two versions of Sophia existed, one familiar, one slightly off. At night, Helena lay awake staring at the ceiling, the notebook heavy in her drawer. Her mind echoed Marco's words from the airport. "I have her passport in my hands. She's here with me. Could it be possible? Could there really be another woman?" Helena wanted desperately to shake off the thought, but the unease had grown roots. She found herself moving carefully, almost fearfully, around her daughter-in-law, watching her every gesture, her every word. And then one afternoon, something happened that nearly stopped her heart. Helena had gone to the market to pick up a few things. As she returned home, walking along a quieter street, she saw a woman ahead of her. At first, she thought it was Sophia, The same height, the same dark hair, even the same way of carrying herself. But the woman was wearing a bright yellow dress, unlike anything she had seen Sophia wear before. Curious, Helena followed at a distance. She watched as the woman turned into a narrow alley, then entered a run-down, crumbling house. The paint was peeling, the windows cracked. It was the kind of place Helena would never have imagined Sophia stepping into. Helena's pulse quickened. She hurried home, her mind racing. But when she opened the front door, she stopped in her tracks. There in the kitchen stood Sophia, not in a yellow dress, but in a white blouse and jeans, stirring a pot of soup as if she had been there all along. Sophia turned, her expression oddly cool. "Helena, where have you been?" Helena could barely breathe. Her notebook, her doubts, her sleepless nights, everything now made terrible, undeniable sense. The woman in her house was not always Sophia. Helena could no longer deny it. The sight of that yellow dress haunted her. The impossible timeline, the woman she followed into the crumbling house, and the Sophia already in her kitchen was proof. Proof that something was terribly wrong. For days, Helena wrestled with the decision of what to do. Should she confront Sophia directly? Should she tell Antonio? Or Marco? What if she was mistaken? What if her mind, worn thin by grief and loneliness, was playing tricks on her? But deep inside she knew. The notebook entries, the neighbors' whispers, the cold stares and sudden warmth that alternated like day and night, it was all real. There were two women, and Helena was determined to find out who they were. The next week, she returned to that broken neighborhood. It wasn't the kind of place a woman like Helena normally ventured into. The paint on the houses was chipped, trash lay piled in corners, and children played barefoot in the dust. She clutched her bag close, her heart pounding. There it was, the dilapidated house with the cracked windows. She waited across the street, pretending to examine her shopping bag, until she saw her. The woman in the yellow dress. Helena's breath caught. It was Sophia, exactly Sophia, from the curve of her face to the swing of her hair. Yet there was something softer in her movements, less polished. She carried herself with caution, almost shyness. The woman unlocked the door and stepped inside. Helena hesitated, fear and determination warring in her chest. Then, with trembling hands, she crossed the street. She knocked. For a moment, silence. Then the door creaked open, and Helena's world shifted forever. The woman standing there was indeed the image of Sophia, but up close she wasn't the same. Her eyes were gentler, her face worn by hardship, her dress faded. She looked at Helena with confusion, then recognition of sorts. "Can I help you?" the woman asked softly. Helena's voice shook. You look exactly like my daughter-in-law." The woman's lips parted, her eyes filling with something like shame. She stepped back and motioned Helena inside. The house smelled faintly of dampness, of poverty endured with quiet dignity. Worn furniture, peeling wallpaper, a photograph of an elderly couple on the wall. The woman gestured for Helena to sit. "My name is Elena," she said quietly. "I'm Sophia's twin sister." Helena's knees went weak. She sank into the chair, her heart thundering. "Twin! Sophia she never told us." Elena looked away, guilt etched across her face. "I wasn't meant to be part of her world. Our parents were too poor to raise us both. They kept her, the stronger baby, and gave me away. I was adopted by a kind but struggling family. I grew up in places like this, while Sophia lived a life of comfort." Helena's throat tightened. The pieces were falling together, sharp and painful. Elena continued, her voice trembling. "A few years ago she found me. At first, I thought maybe she wanted to reconnect. Maybe she wanted to know me as a sister. But that wasn't it. She had another life, one she didn't want her family to know about. So she paid me to take her place sometimes, to look after her son, to be the perfect wife when she couldn't. I needed the money. My adoptive parents are old, sick. I thought I had no choice. Helena's chest ached as if something heavy was crushing her. The betrayal, the deceit, it was worse than she imagined. "She's been using you," Helena whispered. Elena's eyes welled with tears. "Yes, and I let her. I told myself it was harmless, that nobody would get hurt. But every time I look at your grandson, every time I see the trust in Antonio's eyes, I know I'm living a lie, and it kills me." Helena reached across the table, her hands trembling but firm, and took Elena's. "Then it has to stop. My family deserves the truth. Antonio deserves the truth. Little Luca deserves the truth." Elena nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "But Sophia will never forgive me. She'll destroy me." Helena's eyes hardened, filled with a strength she didn't know she still had. "No, she's already destroyed enough. This ends now." And in that dim, crumbling room, among the peeling wallpaper and faded dreams, Helena made a silent vow. She would protect her family. She would pull them out of this web of lies, no matter how painful the truth might be. The woman in the yellow dress was no longer just a shadow. She had a name. She had a story. And together they would bring the deception into the light. Helena left Elena's house that evening with her heart pounding and her mind in turmoil. The streets of Crestwood seemed unfamiliar now, as if the entire town had shifted under her feet. She walked quickly, clutching her bag to her chest, her thoughts spinning. Sophia had a twin, a secret twin, and worse, she had used that twin to deceive them all. That night, Helena barely slept. Every sound in the house made her tense. Every glance from Sophia filled her with suspicion. She watched her daughter-in-law's every movement. The way she kissed Antonio on the cheek, the way she tucked Luca into bed, the way she stirred the soup with an almost mechanical smile. It was all a performance. And Helena now knew that behind that performance there was another life. A few days later, Marco called again. His voice was low, urgent. "Mom, you need to listen carefully," he said. "I saw Sophia again. Not just at the airport this time. She was with a man, wealthy-looking. They were laughing, holding hands, like lovers." Helena's breath caught in her throat. "Are you certain?" "I swear it. I even heard his name. Robert Vance. He's some big investor, rich, the kind of man who owns half the hotels in Europe. Mom, she wasn't just traveling for fun. She's living another life." Helena's hand shook as she gripped the phone tighter. A secret lover. Money. A second life fueled by betrayal. She thought back to the expensive dress she'd once found in Sophia's closet, tag still on, far beyond what Antonio's salary could afford. The sudden unexplained trips. The coldness in her voice, the distance in her eyes. It all made sense now. Sophia had built a double world, and Elena was the key that made it possible. Helena returned to Elena's shabby house the next evening, her determination burning stronger than her fear. Elena answered the door, her expression weary but gentle. "You came back," Elena whispered, almost in relief. Helena stepped inside. "I need the truth. All of it. No more pieces. No more hiding." Elena sighed heavily, then sat down at the worn kitchen table. She spoke with the quiet shame of someone unburdening a heavy secret. "Sophia never cared about reconnecting with me. She found me because she needed me, needed a twin to cover her tracks. Whenever she traveled with Robert, I stepped in. I wore her clothes, stayed with your family, played the part of the dutiful wife and mother. She paid me well, and I told myself it was for survival. My adoptive parents," her voice cracked, "they needed medicine. They needed care, and I didn't know how else to help them." Helena's heart softened at the mention of Elena's struggle, but the anger still burned. And all this time, Antonio believed he had a faithful wife. Luca believed his mother was always there. My God, Elena, do you realize what she's done? what you've both done." Elena's tears spilled freely now. "I know. I hate myself for it. Every smile from Luca breaks me. He looks at me like I'm his mother. But I'm not. I'm just a shadow pretending to belong." Helena's eyes hardened. "Sophia may think she's clever, but lies always rot from the inside out. And I won't let my family be destroyed by her selfishness." Elena bowed her head. "She'll never forgive me if the truth comes out. She'll ruin me." Helena leaned forward, her voice steady and fierce. "You've already lost so much, but this is your chance to choose differently, to stop hiding, to do what's right. You have the power to help me save Antonio and Luca." For a long moment, Elena was silent. Then she whispered, "I'll help you. I'll tell them everything." Later that night, Helena sat alone in her living room, the lamp casting long shadows across the walls. She opened her notebook again, adding one final entry at the bottom of the page. "Sophia has another life, a lover, a twin who takes her place. The truth is ready to come out." She closed the notebook with trembling hands. The web of lies had been exposed, but tearing it apart would not be easy. There would be anger. There would be heartbreak. Still, Helena knew one thing with absolute certainty: the time for silence was over. The storm had passed, but the silence in Crestwood Manor was heavier than thunder. Rain still clung to the windows, dripping in slow, deliberate lines, as if time itself had slowed to witness the unraveling of truths. Sophia sat cross-legged on her bed, the leather-bound book trembling in her hands. It was Elena's diary, hidden at the bottom of an old cedar chest, wrapped in faded silk. She had stumbled upon it while searching for something, anything, that could explain the growing shadows in her family's past. She hesitated, brushing her fingers across the cover. Her heart pounded. This was more than a diary. It was Elena's voice, trapped in ink and memory. Taking a deep breath, Sophia opened the first page. The handwriting was delicate, looping, and filled with emotion. The words leapt off the page. "There are moments when I feel I live two lives, one for myself, and one for the lies I must carry. Helena believes she has buried the past, but secrets do not stay dead. They grow like weeds, pushing through cracks, demanding light." Sophia's throat tightened. She turned the pages quickly, devouring every sentence. "Antonio, my sweet Antonio. He was mine before he was Helena's. She knew it, and yet she took him. But fate was cruel to us all. If Sophia ever learns the truth of her birth, it will destroy her. She must never know. The shame would consume us." The words struck like lightning. Sophia froze. She read the line again and again, the letters blurring through her tears. Her hands shook violently as she whispered, "Never know what?" She flipped to another entry. "Marco is not the man he claims to be. His loyalty is not to Crestwood, nor to Helena. I fear what his presence will bring. I fear for Sophia. I fear for us all." Sophia gasped. Marco, the charming uncle who always seemed to lurk in the corners of her life. What did Elena know about him? Suddenly, she heard footsteps in the hallway. She shoved the diary under her pillow just as Helena entered the room. Helena's face was pale, drawn tight like a mask. Her eyes flicked to Sophia's trembling hands, then to the bed. For a moment, silence stretched between them like a wire ready to snap. "What are you hiding?" Helena asked softly. Sophia forced a smile. "Nothing, Mother." Helena's gaze lingered, searching. Then, with a sigh, she sat beside her daughter. She reached out to brush a lock of hair from Sophia's face, her hand trembling. "You remind me so much of Elena," Helena whispered. The name sent a jolt through Sophia. She wanted to scream the truth she had just read, to demand answers, but fear held her tongue. Instead, she whispered back, "Why do I feel like there are things you're not telling me?" Helena's eyes glistened, but she turned away, her voice breaking. "Some truths are too heavy for the living. Sleep now, child. Tomorrow will be different." But as Helena left the room, Sophia's grip tightened around the diary. She knew one thing for certain: tomorrow would not bring peace. Tomorrow would bring revelations. The following morning, Crestwood Manor stirred with a strange tension. The house seemed restless, as if its walls knew whispers of betrayal long before its inhabitants. Sophia barely slept. Elena's diary burned in her thoughts, each word clawing at her sanity. Antonio, Helena, Marco, lies woven so tightly that she could hardly breathe. At breakfast, Marco arrived late. He carried himself with his usual swagger, dark suit, silk tie, the faint scent of expensive cologne. His smile was polished, but to Sophia it felt hollow, forced. "Forgive my tardiness," Marco said smoothly, sliding into his chair. "Business matters kept me late into the night." Helena's eyes narrowed. "Business or pleasure?" Marco chuckled. "Does it matter, dear sister-in-law? I always provide, don't I?" The tension was sharp enough to slice the air. Sophia studied him carefully now, remembering Elena's warning. Marco is not the man he claims to be. Later that afternoon, Sophia wandered the estate grounds, diary hidden in her coat. She overheard voices by the stables, low, urgent, dangerous. She crept closer. Marco stood in the shadows, speaking to a stranger. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, his face hidden beneath a hat. "You have what I asked for," Marco demanded. The stranger handed him a sealed envelope. Marco opened it briefly, a smirk curling across his lips. "Excellent. With these documents, Helena's little kingdom will collapse. She's held Crestwood too long. Soon it will be mine." Sophia's heart stopped. Her uncle wasn't just disloyal, he was plotting to destroy her mother. "Keep silent," Marco added darkly, slipping the man a roll of bills. "If anyone learns of this before the time is right, it won't just be Helena who suffers. It'll be the girl, too, Sophia. And trust me, I don't make idle threats." The world tilted beneath Sophia's feet. She stumbled back, pressing a hand to her mouth to keep from crying out. She ran. Her lungs burned, her heart threatened to burst. Marco's betrayal wasn't just about Crestwood, it was about her. She was in danger. That night, she confided in Antonio. He found her pacing in the library, the diary clutched to her chest. "Antonio!" she whispered, her voice breaking. "I heard Marco. He wants to destroy Mother, and he threatened me." Antonio's eyes darkened, his hands tightening into fists. "Marco has always been reckless, but this is treachery. You must be careful, Sophia. Don't let him suspect you know." Sophia shook her head. "We can't just wait. We need to stop him." Antonio placed a hand on her shoulder, steady but heavy. "There are truths you still don't understand. Marco's betrayal is only part of the web. To untangle it, you'll need more than courage. You'll need the whole truth about who you are." Sophia stared at him, confusion and fear colliding in her chest. "What are you trying to tell me?" she whispered. But Antonio turned away, his face shadowed. "Not yet. Soon." And with those words, the silence of Crestwood deepened, filled with secrets that threatened to consume them all. Night fell heavy over Crestwood, the kind of night where the wind whispers like voices through the trees. Sophia sat by her window, Elena's diary spread open on her lap. She traced the words with trembling fingers, desperate for answers. But the diary only hinted at shadows, never the whole picture. It spoke of love denied, of children separated, of debts unpaid. And one phrase repeated itself like an echo. Blood remembers. Secrets cannot be buried forever. Sleep did not come. Instead, Sophia wandered the halls of Crestwood until she found herself at Helena's study. The door was closed, the fire inside glowing faintly beneath the crack. She hesitated, then pushed it open. Helena sat at her desk, shoulders bent, a bundle of old letters spread before her. When she saw Sophia, her face softened, though her eyes carried the weight of centuries. "You shouldn't be here, child," Helena said gently. "I can't keep pretending," Sophia whispered. "I know Marco is planning something terrible. I know Elena wasn't lying. And I know you've been hiding something from me." Helena's silence was sharper than words. She closed the letters slowly, her hands trembling just enough for Sophia to notice. At last, Helena spoke, her voice low and fragile. "You deserve the truth, even if it breaks you." She rose and moved to a locked cabinet in the corner. From within, she drew a small wooden box, polished but scarred by time. She placed it on the desk between them. "This," Helena said, "is what I've kept hidden all these years." Sophia opened the box with unsteady hands. Inside were documents, birth certificates, adoption papers, faded photographs. One photo made her gasp. 2 infant girls, swaddled side by side, identical in every way. Her vision blurred. "Twins," she whispered. Helena nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "You and Elena, my daughters. Both mine, though the world only ever knew one." Sophia staggered back, her breath caught in her throat. "But why? Why keep her a secret?" Helena's voice cracked as she explained. "When your father died, I had nothing. 2 mouths to feed, 2 futures to secure. A wealthy couple came to me. They could not bear children of their own. They offered to adopt one of you. I thought I was giving Elena a chance at a better life. I believed I was saving you both." The room spun. Sophia clutched the edge of the desk, her heart pounding. "You gave her away." Helena's tears spilled freely now. "I thought I was doing what was best. But fate is cruel. Elena grew up poor, struggling, abandoned by the very people who promised her the world. And you had everything. And yet, you were both broken in different ways." Sophia felt anger rise, hot and suffocating. "So all these years, she suffered while I lived in comfort? And you let me believe I was an only child." Helena reached for her, but Sophia stepped back, shaking. "You don't understand," Helena pleaded. "I tried to find her. I searched. But by then, she was gone. The only trace I had was her name whispered in records, Elena." Sophia's mind raced. The diary, the strange meetings, Elena wearing her face like a mirror. It was all true. Her voice was barely a whisper. "She hates me, doesn't she? She hates us all." Helena bowed her head. "No, my child. She doesn't hate you. She hates me. And I fear she may hate herself most of all." The fire crackled, the truth filling the room like smoke, heavy and choking. Sophia felt both broken and whole, betrayed yet enlightened. But one question remained, clawing at her insides. If Elena is my sister, then what does Marco want with her? Why is he tangled in all of this? Helena's face darkened. "Because, Sophia, Marco knows the truth too, and he plans to use it, not to heal this family, but to destroy it." Sophia's world collapsed around her. She wasn't just fighting secrets anymore, she was fighting time. The storm came without warning. Thunder rattled the windows of Crestwood, rain slashing against the glass like knives. The Rossi family gathered in the great hall, summoned by Helena herself. Her voice, though weary, carried the authority of a mother who had seen too much silence and could endure no more lies. Antonio sat rigid, confusion burning in his eyes. Beside him, little Luca clung to his father's arm, his wide, innocent gaze darting between the adults. Marco stood near the fireplace, calm but coiled like a predator, his hand resting casually in his pocket, as though he had been waiting for this night all along. And then she entered. Elena, dressed in plain clothes, her hair damp from the rain, her face pale but unyielding. She stood across from her sister, Sophia, identical yet different. 2 lives, 2 fates, 2 halves of the same shattered whole. The silence was unbearable. Finally, Helena broke it. "My sons, my grandchild, my daughters. Tonight, you must hear the truth. All of it." She recounted everything. The twins' birth, the impossible choice, the adoption, the years of secrets. Her words poured out like confession, heavy with guilt, soaked with regret. Antonio's face hardened with every revelation. His wife was not who he thought she was. His marriage, his family, all built on shadows. Sophia stood trembling, eyes locked on Elena. You knew, didn't you? You knew about me, about us. And still you came into my home. You wore my life like a costume. Elena's voice cracked, but she spoke with courage. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you. She asked me. She nodded toward Sophia. And I said yes, because my parents were sick, because we needed money. I didn't think of the damage it would cause. I only thought of survival. Sophia's anger flared. You stole my son's trust. You fooled my husband. You pretended to be me. Tears filled Elena's eyes. And you, while I was being used, you were off with him. She turned sharply toward Marco. The one who found me. The one who promised me help. The one who said he would fix everything. Antonio's head snapped around. Marco! His voice trembled, a mix of disbelief and fury. Marco's smile was cold, almost triumphant. Yes, I told her the truth. I told her who she really was, and I showed her what kind of woman you married, brother. While Sophia paraded as your loyal wife, she was running off to Italy, to Robert Vance, living a second life while Elena kept the illusion alive at home. The room erupted. Antonio rose to his feet, rage shaking through him. Sophia's face went white, her secret affair laid bare before them all. You liar! She cried, her voice breaking. Marco twisted everything. Enough! Antonio's shout silenced her. His eyes burned with betrayal. You let another man hold your heart while I raised our son alone, blind to the truth. Sophia staggered back as though struck. Luca whimpered, hiding his face in his father's arm. Helena's voice trembled as she pleaded. Stop this, please. Do not tear each other apart. This family has already bled enough. But it was too late. Sophia turned on her heel, her pride her only shield. I won't stand here and be judged by people who don't understand me. Not you, Antonio. Not you, Mother. Not any of you. Her eyes lingered on Elena, full of venom. And certainly not her. She stormed toward the door. Antonio called after her, his voice raw. Sophia, what about Luca? She didn't look back. He deserves better than me. And with that, she disappeared into the storm, the door slamming shut behind her. The silence that followed was unbearable, broken only by Luca's soft sobs. Antonio knelt, pulling his son close. His tears finally fell, not just for the wife he had lost, but for the illusions that had crumbled around him. Elena stepped forward, timidly, her hand shaking. I can't undo what I did, but I want to help. Not as her shadow, not as a replacement, as myself. Antonio lifted his gaze, weary and broken, but when he looked at Elena, he saw no deceit, no masks, only sincerity. Helena, her heart both shattered and healed, whispered, perhaps this is what fate intended, to bring ruin, so that truth could finally rebuild us. The firelight flickered across their faces, casting long shadows on the walls. The storm outside began to ease, the thunder rolling into the distance, leaving behind only rain, a cleansing, quiet rain. For the first time in years, Helena felt that the house was not filled with lies, but with painful, brutal honesty. And in that truth, there was hope. The past had destroyed them. But maybe, just maybe, the future could heal them.